even if this was just, a negotiating position, I think it shows that there is some interest at that level of an acquisition and bringing another major studio or streaming service into the fold of an existing large one.
Hey gang, it's Tuesday, January 16th. Ross, Jeremy, Danny, and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily and eMarketer podcast. I hope you guys had nice, long MLK weekends. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by three people. Let's meet them. We start with one of our analysts on the marketing and advertising briefing based in New York. It's Daniel Konstantinovich.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hey there, fella. We're also joined by one of our senior directors of briefings based in New York as well. It's Jeremy Goldman.
Good morning, Marcus, and happy 50th birthday, Kate Moss.
How do you know this stuff? We've got to get you outside more. And finally, we're joined by one of our senior analysts on the media and advertising desk based just above New York. It's Ross Benish.
Hey, Marcus.
Hello there. All right, gents, today's fact. So I know Jeremy's an NBA guy. Ross, more college football. Danny, I'm not so sure. Sports, Danny?
I'm learning about football. How to catch it.
So this one's an NBA fact. The oldest player to play an NBA game was... I haven't actually fact-checked this. Go on, Jeremy.
Is it Robert Parrish? I think it might be.
It might be. I don't think so. So I stole this from Mike Breen. So he's one of the famous broadcasters for the NBA. He said Nat Hickey played 2 games back in the serious player, Jeremy's probably right. But Nat Hickey played 2 games back in 1948 for the Providence Steamrollers. He was 46 at the time. He was the head coach. The team had 4 wins, 25 losses. And as basketball commentator Mike Breen recently said, they were awful, so he figured he could help. He played 2 games. He didn't help. But he played in the NBA at 46.
I will say that was it. The Nat Hickey one's a little bit of a cheat. You're totally right, though, and I just looked it up, and it's actually Robert Parrish was number 3, Kevin Willis was number 2, and Kevin Willis should be like the real one. Yeah, that's fair. Ross, maybe head coach Matt Rule could get in there and play a little linebacker for your Nebraska Cornhuskers.
He'd be pretty slow. He doesn't look like a mobile guy.
Used to play, maybe not so much now. Anyway, today's real topic, the great behind the numbers takeoff video trends in 2024. All right, folks, in today's episode, first in the league, we'll cover some video trends for this year, 2024. No another news today. We'll probably have another news as of February. We're doing a lot of trends episodes, so not a lot of news to cover in January, mainly looking ahead. It's the great behind the numbers takeoff once again. Focusing on video. This is a bake-off style episode, Great British Bake-Off style episode. And in today's episode, our takers, or bakers, will be cooking up some video-specific expectations for the coming new year. 3 rounds. Signature take is the first one. The how it will technically play out challenge is the second, and the show-stopping argument is the third. First of all, before we hit round 1, let's meet the contestants' predictions. Ross, what is your prediction for today?
That this year, Amazon will begin its ascension to become the second most powerful U.S. company in streaming advertising.
Jeremy.
Brands and creators are going to increasingly invest in AI to create video.
And Danny.
There will be a major streaming service consolidation in 2024.
Okay. Very nice, folks. Let's move, of course, to round 1. It's the signature take, where our chefs will have 30 seconds to explain the premise of their trends. We'll start with Ross talking about Amazon ascending to become the second most important company in streaming advertising in 2024.
Well, the premise is Amazon's been pretty active in other areas of advertising, and they have sold streaming advertising for some years. But this year is when they're getting much more active, starting with the introduction of ads into Prime Video. And that's going to catapult the rest of their video ad business to greater heights than it's had before.
So people might be thinking, well, Netflix just started ads last year, Disney Plus as well. What makes Amazon so different?
They already have such a large ads business and a video ads business. They have, Fire TV, they have Freevee. They've been selling sports stuff, and now they're just doing more of what they've already been doing. Netflix is starting from the ground. Disney has experience with television ad sales, but it's the first time that ads are coming into that particular streaming service.
Yep.
So I think Prime Video will get more of a kickstart, and they're doing it by default too, which probably won't make users happy.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be bolstering my competitors' points, but I think the fact that they're making ad-supported viewing on Prime Video the default is a really big one, because Netflix and Disney Plus have to get consumers who have been used to a decade, if you're Netflix, of ad-free streaming to jump on to an ad-supported subscription. And the way they've been doing that is cutting cheap ad-free tiers and cracking down on password sharing, both things that consumers have put up some resistance to. Surely there will be some, griping about Prime Video's move, but that's a huge number of viewers who are just out of the box ad-supported.
Yeah. Jeremy, you're up.
Yeah. So, I think essentially what it is that marketers on the whole, they have some concerns about inflation, but they are investing. They are getting, bigger budgets in a lot of ways than they did in the past year. And one of the main ways you can get budget is basically just, the fear that every other brand is getting ahead of you, right? So AI is going to be one of those things that is a little bit easier to convince your manager to fund. And there are a number of tools that either will help you directly create, some motion graphics, some other things that you can use in your videos, directly from AI, but even the script production process. And there are going to be a lot of brands that are going to take advantage of this to create either more content or higher quality content than they had in years past.
Okay. And finally, Danny, streaming services will consolidate.
So a lot of major streaming services have set deadlines for the end of 2023 or 2024 to reach profitability. Disney Plus is one of these. Peacock, NBC Universal streaming service. So there are important financial deadlines coming up for a lot of these companies. And the number of streaming competitors has really grown significantly in the last several years. Subscriber growth has slowed outside of, practices like password sharing crackdowns to get new people who were sharing accounts onto streaming services. So these deadlines, the high cost of streaming and slower growth, I think is going to lead to, I'm going to throw a shot out there, at least one major acquisition of another media company or streaming service in 2024. And there are already signs that it's playing out, but I'm going to leave that for round two.
Oh, cliffhanger. Well played, sir. Well played.
Nice teaser.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was very good. After helping your opponent in round one, you brought it back. That was a strong finish.
It's because I had that, that ace.
Let's move to round two. It's the How It Will Technically Play Out challenge, where our chefs will explain in more detail how they expect the trend to play out in 2024. We circle back to Ross talking about Amazon becoming the second most important company in streaming advertising. How does this unfold?
Well, it begins with them injecting ads into Prime Video, which is going to happen later this month. But they're also becoming more active with sports rights. They've already have the NFL Thursday night games and some Yankee games. They're looking to add more. They're extending their tentacles into local advertising as well. They've been rumored to be purchasing some of the Sinclair regional sports networks that have gone bankrupt. That'd be a little bit of a loss leader, but give them a relationship with some of these local and regional advertisers that they haven't had as much contact with before. And eventually, I believe they will consolidate all the inventory they have across Freevee and their Fire operating system and all the stuff they have with on-demand and live sports in Prime Video to have one big pool of inventory that's going to have advanced tech that they can do data-driven things against it. And it's Amazon who has more retail data than them. So, advertisers are going to be, excited about the capabilities of everything they're building out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing I just kind of almost to add on to Ross's point, again, I feel like strengthening it is it's almost like, are we even underestimating, the ability of Amazon to leapfrog Netflix, at least in terms of efficacy of their advertising, given all of the retail data that they're sitting on? In
terms of advertising, I think they will leapfrog Netflix, not as an overall streaming service. Netflix's primary value isn't in the advertising, but on the ad side, yeah, I think your point's right.
In terms of size, they're already a giant, right? Amazon Prime Video, second most viewers in America, behind only Netflix, according to our forecasting team. We're talking viewers, not subscribers. 157 million. That's just 10 million shy of Netflix in the US, but it's 30 million ahead of third place Hulu, 45 million more than Disney Plus, and it's twice as big in terms of viewers as fifth place of Max. So it doesn't have too far to go to catch them. Danny, do you also agree with Amazon becoming the second most important company in streaming advertising, or is there some kind of hurdle or kind of stumbling block that might slow them down a bit?
Well, I'm torn between my opinion as an analyst and my opinion as a competitor in the bake-off. As an analyst, I think Amazon is really set up to make a big ascension into user.
Throw that take out. Chef's hat on.
Yeah. A chef's hat on. Amazon is going to go bankrupt. They're doing
too far. You've gone too far the other way.
The Handmaid's Tale has gotten out of control. It's not as good as it used to be.
That's a Hulu show.
And who cares? Oh, that is a Hulu show. Shoot.
You're all over the place, Danny.
No. And no one cares about football anyway. Who likes football? I don't.
Well played.
Thank you.
Seriously, really quick, Ross. Any hurdles here for Amazon, or are they just going to kind of steamroll?
Well, I just want to say the number one company, to be clear, is Google, with all the ad tech they have and with YouTube. So if you're wondering who I'm saying is number one, Amazon isn't at that point yet. Like Disney is still ahead of them. Roku is still ahead of them. I think they're going to surpass Roku this year, and then Disney in their holdings eventually. Mm-hmm. As far as a hurdle, I mean, some consumer revolt from the injection of all that advertising. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they find out they're not making as much money on some of the sports as the media rights demand. So, you know, who knows if they'll hold on to them long term. Yeah. It's a nice way to draw people into this service, but do you want to do Thursday Night Football for 10 years? Who knows, you know?
Do you think there's a chance they might not hold on to Thursday Night Football for...
I mean, they'll have it for the next few years for sure. That contract wasn't a one-year deal, but every time these media rights come up for negotiation, the companies that had them are always hesitant to re-sign. Like look at DirecTV and the NFL Sunday package, because like it's just so much money you have to pour up front that it's not always worth it. Right now, it is in their case to bring people into and bring advertisers into Prime Video, but if they're a more mature company in the future, they're more concerned about profit over expenses. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they'll let someone else take some Yankee games or Thursday Night Football, but that's like way down the road.
It is also, by the way, worth noting, I feel like on the Amazon side, that Bank of America had some analysis that their push into this could boost their video advertising revenue by as much as $5 billion, right? So I feel like they are obviously going to value the consumer experience in relation to how much more they're going to be able to generate out of this at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, we will have to see if one other hurdle, I didn't think of it until Jeremy brought it up, if injecting all these ads makes people spend less time with the platform. That's something you got to, you know, the time spent has been largely ad free. You inject ads. Do you watch a little less Prime Video? I mean, we'll find out in a year.
Next up is Jeremy talking about more creators and brands embracing AI to create videos. How does this play out, Jeremy?
So the way that this plays out is, simply put, you have a lot of people who initially play around with certain tools like ChatGPT. And what we see with a lot of technology adoption is the first thing that you do is not necessarily the perfect use of any particular technology. So I've seen a lot of experimentation with marketers moving to flesh out scripts, moving more towards ideation, which is going to allow them to create videos faster. But then, so there's one element of, like, if you will, like the text generation tools speeding up the video creation. Then the other facet of this is that generative AI tied specifically to the creation of video, not necessarily for the entire video, but perhaps, you know, B-roll, cutaway stuff. That's getting a lot better. And the quality will be a little bit higher because everybody will have to up their game because there'll be a lot of other quality content out there. That's the hope, at least.
With the script part that you mentioned, do you foresee copywriters, you know, protesting this the way that like writers did during the strikes with film and television when AI potentially being used?
You know, it's a great question. I definitely think that there is going to be a lot of that uproar, but I think that the smarter among that class are going to be the ones who realize that they become a little bit of the prompt engineers and the people who edit it. I mean, everything that you get out of AI without a human touching it is not great, you know, but can you get to great faster if you're, you know, let's say a content creator that is ideating and developing a bunch of scripts simultaneously so that you increase your production? That type of stuff is definitely possible. And the smarter creators and copywriters are going to be the ones that embrace it, but also acknowledge that AI cannot do it alone.
I do wonder if there's going to be some consumer pushback here. We talked about the AI folks, Jacob and Garjo, about AI watermarks and having something that says this was created, this was written, this was produced, whatever, by AI. And I do wonder if when you're watching a video, will people want to know that AI was infused into the process?
In the short term, yes. In the long term, no.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the effectiveness of AI watermarks, to be honest. I think if you are someone trying to create a lot of content for a platform for the sake of generating ad revenues, it's not necessarily in your interest to disclose that you're using AI to pump out as much of this as possible, because it could be viewed as like a mark of lower quality. And I think, to Ross's point, the pushback against AI is already happening. Like, we have several really major lawsuits against AI companies for copyright theft.
Yeah. All right, folks. Danny, you're up last for round 2. Streaming services will consolidate. Tell us a bit more about this.
So I think we're already seeing signs that streaming services are trying to work together in some ways instead of just being at constant odds with each other. At the end of last year, we had some major bundles start to come out on the market. Netflix and Max are offering a bundle through Verizon. The benefit of doing these sort of phone deals or, discounted streaming bundles through your phone deal is that they reduce churn, because a phone line is something that is not very likely to be canceled out of the blue. And there was another one that I'm sorry, I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Is it Paramount?
Paramount merged its own brand Showtime into one. So now it's Paramount Plus with Showtime. So rather than have these two separate brands, they're kind of folded under one umbrella, which you could say makes it perhaps a more appealing asset for acquisition, ?
Oh.
I wonder if Ross and Jeremy will push back on that. I welcome it. But I think there are some roadblocks that they will have to overcome. Like, it's a high interest rate environment still, which means acquisitions are happening at kind of a slower rate than they were, in 2022 or earlier. So, and companies like Netflix, have had some pretty notable cash flow problems and are probably not looking to make a major multi-billion-dollar acquisition. We talked about that a little bit with what Ross said about sports rights being so expensive. But I think that if these streaming services want to reduce churn, they want to keep subscriber growth strong, I think working together on these deals and packaging each other's content into one place is something that would be beneficial to them, right? Like, if you can have one company's hub on another service that is appealing, then I don't have to leave the one place that I'm at in order to watch things that I want to watch.
But with that hub, does that company want to give up 30% of their revenue to someone like Amazon or Google or Apple? So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
That is definitely a trade-off. Like, you'd be ceding a lot of eyeballs and time spent on your platform to do that. So I think the companies that will do that are maybe those who are having a rough go of it already. And there was a story just right before the new year that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, was in discussions to merge with Paramount. Now, I'm going to knock against my own point here. I don't think this is going to happen.
God,
I don't think this is a real merger. I don't think Warner Brothers Discovery will acquire Paramount because they already have so much debt. I don't think they want to take out even more leverage. But even if this was just, a negotiating position, I think it shows that there is some interest at that level of an acquisition and bringing another major studio or streaming service into the fold of an existing large one.
Very nice. All right, gents, we move to round 3. It's time for the show-stopping arguments. Our chefs will pull out their best closing arguments as to why their trend is most likely to happen. Quick 10-second takes here, gents. We start with Ross and Amazon becoming the second most important company in streaming advertising.
Well, Amazon has the resources. They're committed to advertising. They have advanced tech, and they're widening their customer base. So who else is better to challenge Google in this transition to streaming than Amazon?
Mic drop. Jeremy.
Ultimately, you have more and more marketers that have some optimistic budgets. They are clearly investing in AI, and more we see what do consumers want? Video. So if you have that AI budget, you're going to be turning it towards video, and that's ultimately why my trend is going to be supreme in 2024.
Danny?
Well, I may not have a lot of data, but I have vibes. And the vibe is that there's going, which is just as good as data, right? To any analyst.
V, we've got to cut that out for sure.
We got to give that to our salespeople that they got to be selling on vibes rather than data.
Look at that in the one sheet.
Our 2024 vibes product.
Please don't. Please don't look out for it.
Well, I think that this is a really big make or break year for a lot of streaming services. There are, like I said earlier, big deadlines coming up for turning around spending and increasing revenues that are coming in. And if certain streaming services can't right the ship, there is going to be a lot of incentive for them to piggyback off of the larger ones that are.
All right, folks, that's all we got time for today's episode. We have to crown a star taker or baker. And this episode, it is Ross is today's winner. Congratulations to Ross. Danny tried to self-sabotage and help his colleagues win throughout the entire episode. Jeremy's trend, I think, will make a bigger splash in 2025, but we shall see. It's a good take, though. So Ross is today's winner with his take of Amazon beginning its ascension to become the second most important company in streaming advertising.
Well, do I get like a cupcake or something since this is like a bake-off? Like, do I get like a baked good since I won?
That's a really good question.
Marcus will
Not
he'll Venmo you afterwards.
No, he won't.
No, he
Put
won't?
this personal account.
No.
Like I like a little pastry.
I will probably not do that. We haven't really thought through what the prize was. No one else really asked for one, Ross, to be honest. They were just happy to have won.
I wasn't expecting it, so I had to take what I could get when it happened.
But very nice, folks. Thank you so much for being on today's episode. Thank you so much to Victoria, who edits the show. Thanks to the rest of the podcast crew, James, Stewart, and Sophie. Thanks to everyone for listening in to the Behind the Numbers Daily and eMarketer podcast. Tomorrow, you can hang out with Sarah Lebo on the Reimagining Retail show, where she'll speak with Susie David Canyon all about NRF 2024 and lessons for the coming year.